Hey guys, what's up? This is Panzer Dragon, aka Luigi Dragon, and today we'll be going over 10 tips to help you carry as a jungler in lower ELO. This video is going to emphasize more on strategy rather than mechanics or anything else, and of course strategy is a part of decision making, and even if you aren't in lower ELO, you can still find some of these tips really helpful, as even I use some of these tips when I'm playing in high ELO. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Alright, so first rule of thumb, assume everything isn't warded. Obviously things will be warded, but the thing is, people don't have really good map awareness in lower ELO. So even if you appear on the minimap, the enemy won't notice you, or of course they have slow reactions to react that you're on the map. And of course the simple fact is that people don't ward other than their trinket ward. So with this information that I just gave you, every lane is an easy kill. Most parts of the time you'll take into consideration, do we have CC, is the lane overextending, simple ganking mechanics. But there are certain things that will always be warded. Dragon might be warded and might be not warded. People will still react to you doing Dragon if you're soloing it. Bot lane Tribush from the purple side will always be warded, as the Tribush will be looked at 2 people instead of 1, and of course it's just a common area for purple side to ward when they're bot lane. Other than that, the whole map is basically free game for you to gank. Step 2. Do 2 or 3 man Barons. Alright, so this generally works well a lot of times. You just have to be smart about it. The first part is setting up Baron to check if it's clear, making sure that these 2 bushes right here have no wards in them. The second part is the pink Baron. If no wards show up, that means they don't know you're around Baron area, all that they know is your MIA. But if you do find wards, don't ever start it. The plan does fail, as people will kinda get a heads up of saying, they might be Baroning, since I don't have vision of it anymore. But if it is clear, that means it's a possibility you can do Baron. And of course in lower ELO, people won't get the idea that you might be doing Baron with someone, unless they saw you around the area, but of course like I said, you already pinked and sweeped everything, so they didn't see you in that area and all they know is that you're MIA. Step 2. Check your DPS and tank. Do we have damage? Do we have a tank that can tank Baron? If yes, it is definitely doable. Third step, make a decoy somewhere, so they don't think you're actually doing Baron. Like let's leave someone bottom and make him push so hard that he's overextending, and one thing about lower ELO is that they love to chase and they love overextenders. They will chase so hard for that 1 kill, and it'll be too late for the enemy to realize that you got Baron for your team. Also, if mid lane shows mid, it'll be less suspicious that you're doing Baron. The reason sometimes this doesn't work in high ELO is because some people will actually get suspicious that people are missing, and they of course their first thought is they might be Baroning. So one of their first instincts is of course to ward Baron, or to check it to see if someone's doing it. And in lower ELO, the reason it does work is because people don't really think outside the box. They just react to whatever they see on the map, and see that there are people overextending or something like a free kill. And of course this doesn't really happen in lower ELO, so no one really has experience with 2 people or 3 people doing Baron. So why would they ever get suspicious of 2 people doing it? And thus you get your team Baron. Alright, so tip number 3. Gank top always level 3, or after your double buffs. This is a really simple tip that most people should do, as again, assume everything's not warded, and like even if you go, you'll probably blow a flash or net yourself for a kill. It's also the longest lane, so it's really easy to get a kill since you do have red buff to slow them. And the only ones who actually won't fall for this trick are the people who actually are smart and ward at level 2, because they know by like 3 minutes that your second buff is done, so you might gank top. Again, this might net you a free kill, or just some summoners blown, and like you should get a successful gank most of the time. Alright, so step number 4. Ganking bot when you're level 6 or when you have your ultimate. The reason of this is because, well, you can possibly net 2 kills. And what other lanes have 2 kills in it? Only lanes that you can counter gank, but really the concept of counter ganking is actually really hard for lower ELO, because it requires really high map awareness, so I would not recommend counter ganking. But again, with bot lane, you can possibly blow more summoners than you could, you can perhaps get 2 kills, and of course, Dragon is up for grabs if you do get those 2 kills. So it's like a really good investment. Of course you're getting your support and AD carry fed. So just try to count this lane once you get your ultimate, as it does benefit you greatly. Alright, so tip number 5. Always gank if your ultimate is up. So you want to be looking for those ganks if your ultimate is up, because usually ultimates have a big impact on the game. And if you have that up while considering to farm more in the jungle, well then what's the point of having an ultimate if you're never going to use it? So usually ultimates do secure you basically a free kill on any lane. So if you have the mindset to keep farming, you should turn it off and turn on the mindset to keep ganking. I've seen some lower ELO junglers, don't really gank when their ultimate is up, and I see them have it still for a long time, so I want to emphasize lower ELO junglers to start using their ultimate and looking for those ganks. Alright, so tip number 6, taking every dragon. So in lower ELO, a lot of people don't realize how effective taking every dragon could be. They just go for those kills, and think it's more worth it than getting a dragon. Dragon is worth like 3 kills distributed throughout your team, so if you think about it like that, maybe it'll emphasize you to take it more, and of course to concentrate on it. Even late game, it does give your team like around 280 gold, which is almost like 300 gold just like Baron, so even late game it should still be contested. And like the best thing you can do to take every dragon is to time the dragon so you know every time when it's up, and then you can tell your team to be there when it spawns, so you can just grab it before they can contest it. And easy peasy free gold for your team. So tip number 7, if snowballing, pressure hard. So what does snowballing mean? Snowballing means if you have early game kills over your opponents, and you have more kills than your deaths obviously, and well, it just means you're getting more power as the game goes. Since you're getting kills from left and right, you'll be like a snowball which is getting bigger and bigger. And of course, to keep that snowballing going, you want to gank hard, as you can be depriving the other lanes of farming and getting that gold. And let's say you're 3-0 and you just farm, you're getting the same amount as gold if the enemy jungler is also farming. And so if you guys keep that up, the game will eventually just even out, and the enemy will eventually catch up. Unless of course you're just counter jungling him and depriving him of his resources. And again, just keeping that pressure onto the enemy team. Do not give them room where they can catch up. You just want to keep that pressure on them. And remember, just be really aggressive if you are snowballing. You can even buy mobility boots if you want to have more map presence. Alright, so step number 8. Build offensive if you're ahead, and if you're behind, you want to build defense. Alright, so how this works is because if you build offensive, your ganks are more powerful, thus netting you more kills, and making yourself potentially more stronger for teamfights and a bigger threat. And of course, if you're ahead, the enemy doesn't really have damage to take you down, since they're behind. Now, on the contrary, if you're behind, you want to build defense. Alright, so this is the mistake I actually see a lot, is that people start building offensive when they're behind. The reason you don't build offensive is because you want to be the team tank. You want to be useful and soak as much damage as you can for your carries to deal damage. And of course, if you build offensively, you're just going to get bursted down and they have no front line for them to be covered with, and thus without a front line, they cannot go in and they can't really do any damage. So if you want to be useful if you're behind, you gotta take one for the team and build defensively. But I'm not saying you should build Ancient Golem on someone like Kha'Zix, or anyone who scales off AD. You should always build Outer Lizard because it does help you do those clears faster. And I'm just saying you skip something like the Brutalizer and just go straight for Randuins. Alright, so step number 9. Play initiators. If you understand what a good fight is and what a bad fight is, then generally you'll be the one to first to initiate that fight, and of course your team will fall upon any sort of initiation, and this concept is basically follow me. I'm going to initiate and my team is going to follow me into battle. So typically that's you carrying your team or being the leader of your team. Some good junglers who are good at initiating are like Jarvan, Wukong, Mumu, and usually the team that initiates fights in lower ELO, especially if it's like a big initiation like a Mumu, tend to win the team fight. Just because I feel like diving is really strong in lower ELO, since not everyone knows how to properly team fight. And also relevant to picking a jungler, I recommend you not playing early game junglers. The reason for this is because, well, people in lower ELO don't know how to keep a lead, and every game usually goes past 30 minutes these days. You don't see those 20-minute stomps in lower ELO as often as you do in higher ELO, and also there could be someone smurfing of course, but usually the games do go on for a long time, and so champions like Warwick or Mumu who scale really good into late game are really useful and pack more of a punch than someone like Lee Sin. And like early game junglers who fall off mid game and late game like Elise and Lee Sin are not really that great in lower ELO, because most of the time your team will lose that lead or thrower somewhere around the map. And of course, as the game progresses, Elise and Lee Sin are going to fall off eventually, and then you'll see that the other jungler, who is someone like a Mumu or Wukong, is actually more useful than you right now. So again, to sum it up, play mid-game, late-game champions, and don't play early-game champions because your team doesn't know how to keep a lead. This is why you see champions like Kayle and Mumu with high win rates, is because they do scale into late game really good, and of course the majority of players are silver, which means majority of the games are based in silver ELO, where games usually go past 30 minutes. Hey guys, so that's the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and comment below of what you guys thought of the video. And again, this video can be applied to people in, of course, platinum or low diamond. Of course, I consider some of these tips and I still use in my ELO. Well, actually, to make a better number, I'd probably use 80% of the tips. So again, this is pretty good for people in every ELO, I guess. So again, I will see you guys next time.